With confidence growing around a Bitcoin strategic reserve in just a few weeks, haters and doubters are soiling themselves after being wrong about a Bitcoin spot ETF approval and being wrong about $100,000 Bitcoin. And what are the chances now that the bottom bears are also wrong about the strategic Bitcoin reserve approval? With altcoins right now signaling just in time that an upside bust of giglical proportions is underway, now is the time to go big or go home. And let's just say, I think it's time to go big. So if you understand the bust is coming and the bust is coming big time, hit that like and subscribe. And without any further ado, let's absolutely dump into the price of Bitcoin, where we see right now, price is moving up a little bit, but specifically, we're gonna be piecing things together almost like a little puzzle or potentially a Lego, because a lot of things have happened over the past month specifically. And as we're gonna dump into in just the first few minutes of this video, I think it makes an extremely strong case for what's happening behind the scenes with this Bitcoin strategic reserve, how it's going to affect the broader cryptocurrency environment in the market, how it's going to affect altcoins, and specifically as well, something massive that's happening alongside this most likely Bitcoin strategic reserve confirmation that will also bolster altcoins a lot. So to start off, exactly 16 years ago today, Bitcoin was launched. Satoshi created it on January 3rd, 16 years ago. Absolutely banana mode. This is, it's a big day, but what we're about to get into is even bigger. So we see this posted yesterday. Eric Trump, son of Donald Trump, posting two friends, one passion with Eric Trump and Saylor. And this is just another little hint of what's been going on behind the scenes regarding this Bitcoin strategic reserve. If we look back a couple of days ago, we saw this. Michael Saylor being interviewed on Bloomberg. And one of the things he said was he's met with a lot of people in the upcoming administration, but he cannot comment further than that. Michael Saylor absolutely, as we've seen actually over the past couple of weeks, has been buying more Bitcoin than ever before. And some people were saying that was a bad thing because he's been increasing his cost basis, meaning he's been dumping more, billions of dollars in to buy more Bitcoin at a higher price, meaning, you can get more Bitcoin when Bitcoin was at $20,000. But now that it's right at about $100,000, every Bitcoin you buy is more expensive, yet he's putting more money than ever before into buying, even though the price of Bitcoin is the highest thing ever. So you might have to ask yourself, is he doing this because he understands something even bigger is about to happen and $100,000 soon will be a very, very cheap price for it? Well, let's take a look here. We also see that Japan, if a Bitcoin strategic reserve gets approved, Japan looks to the US like a big brother. If Trump moves forward with this reserve, Japan and other Asian nations will copy the same playbook. And as well, if we look here, if we look at this post back on December 10th, Eric Trump was talking about Bitcoin here, saying he's confident that it's going to hit $1 million. And not only that, if we look here, former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort saying to those celebrating $100,000 per Bitcoin, you're going to be celebrating much higher. So again, a few other little clues here, but in addition to that, if the strategic Bitcoin reserve happens, a lot of other countries will follow suit. Somebody has to acquire that Bitcoin from somewhere, as the little amount that is mined monthly will not be enough. And you're going to see there has to be price increases, and that's the Mara CEO. And as well, Bitcoin Therapist highlighting that, if we see a Bitcoin strategic reserve, we could see massive candles. He's saying right here, $100,000 candle basically on the day. Now, again, I think that's not really possible, but again, I think that the price would absolutely go up. For example, let's say that we got the news right now that a Bitcoin strategic reserve was happening, and that for the next 5 years, the US would be buying 200,000 Bitcoin for the next 5 years to then, surpass 1 million Bitcoin in US reserves. If we got that news right now, what do you think would happen to the price? Because if you think an announcement like that, where the most influential country in the world was saying that they were going to be gobbling up a large portion of the entire Bitcoin supply over the next few years, if you got that announcement, most likely the only thing that would make sense to think is that, okay, the price is probably going to be trending up massively over the next few years. And not only you as a single person would be thinking that, but as I just talked about, other countries would be thinking the same thing. Worldwide, especially like Japan, Asia. I mean, we've already seen other companies like Germany. And so if that actually happened and if we start seeing a lot of people and countries start rushing to acquire more of it, $100,000, like a single $100,000 candle in a day or a week or something might not happen, but we're talking the biggest candle we've ever seen is very likely what would happen. And if you piece these things together, where we see Saylor continuing to meet with this incoming administration, who has been emphatically extremely pro-Bitcoin over the last 6 or so months, and if we see Saylor, going on TV every once in a while and just being more and more confident, and not only just saying things, but in fact, he's showing his confidence by buying Bitcoin at the highest cost basis that he's ever bought, at a higher amount than he's ever bought. Just try to piece things together behind the scenes. What do you think is a possibility? Now, again, is it possible we don't get a strategic reserve? Sure, it's totally possible. But all I'm saying is if you look at the writing on the wall, which again, somehow with Bitcoin right at 100,000 US dollars, somehow it's not creating a lot of euphoria. Like if you look at the social metrics or a million other metrics, we're not really at peak euphoria. And for the most part, retail is not super interested still. We're not anywhere close to previous bull market euphoric sentiment and stuff like that. If that's the case, all I can say is that if a strategic reserve gets announced, specifically even within the next few weeks, the price of Bitcoin is going to go much higher, and we're going to start seeing massive FOMO, not only from people like you and me, but from nations, from entire countries that are going to be rushing in just a matter of days after an announcement like that, in just a matter of days to be buying and adding their own Bitcoin reserve for their country. I think it's very likely as well. And I think it's something that people are not fully factoring in right now. And I think in just a few weeks, that might completely change and people might be panicking trying to get more. We also see that Ray Dalio, Larry Fink, and Trump all now being Bitcoin bulls to the point of being every Bitcoiner's dream scenario. And people are somehow still listening to Twitter, people on Twitter with, a couple $1,000s that are bearish and trying to spread fear because we're 2 or 3 days into the year and we're still not we're not seeing $20,000 green candles every day. Basically, the point of this is that it's ridiculous. We see what people in power and billionaires and people with money are leaning towards and what things look to be very much hinting at. And you're going to be sitting on Twitter listening to some guy with, maybe a couple $1,000s in his bank account. And somehow you think that person might know more than the people that are going to be shaping policy in a few weeks. And they're posting their charts of a big scary line going all the way down to $30,000 per Bitcoin or something like that. It's crazy that anyone would take that seriously or anyone would even consider it remotely valid. Complete baloney. Look at what's actually happening. We also see that Galaxy Digital predicting that 5 countries will announce they have adopted Bitcoin as a reserve asset this year. 5 NASDAQ 100 companies and 5 nation states announcing this. Now, if we truly get a Bitcoin strategic reserve announcement in just a few weeks, I think this number is going to look like a baby number. I think that the actual number is going to be much more significant, much higher than this. And I think it will absolutely impact the price big time. We also see, if we look at this chart, what comes after a retest of previous all-time highs. Pentoshi on X asks rhetorically, basically, a bounce. Okay, we've seen this chart, the crypto market cap, break out, have a back test over the last few weeks. He's asking, he wonders what comes next. Well, most likely upward price action. And as well, Will Clemente saying the same thing, total crypto market cap to new all-time highs soon. This excludes Bitcoin and ETH, so the entire altcoin market. And yeah, it looks as well like it's ready to move up. We also see that Cardano, there's a rumor that Cardano will soon get its very own standalone ETF launch. Not only has Saylor been meeting with this administration, but so has Charles Hoskinson. And you have to wonder what has been the discussions behind the scenes, because keep in mind, currently it's still the Biden administration in power. The Trump administration has not had a chance to do anything yet because they haven't taken office yet. What is going to happen once they do take office? Because everything we've been seeing, all these rumors and all these discussions and all these meetings that we're getting hints of what's actually coming, all of them would point to the idea that actually we're about to see some big changes. specifically very pro crypto changes, not just Bitcoin, but also in crypto altcoins. This administration is very open to using cryptocurrencies broadly and changing the framework. Instead of trying to attack the cryptocurrency industry, they are trying to get ahead of it and actually starting adopting it first, because they see the potential for it to be a worldwide asset, a global asset. And if the US gets out in front of it first, which the US likes to usually do, meaning they like to be the one that leads the conversation and the decision and the policies globally, if the US does this, how many countries do you think are going to join in? Because it is a snowball effect. Again, let's say that all of this pro-crypto regulation comes out in the US. Within just days, maybe even the same day, we're going to be hearing conversations. We already are hearing conversations, but we're going to be seeing more actions, legislative, legal actions in other countries to maybe do the same thing. And then once you get one other country to follow, and it makes it much more likely that one other country will follow, and it just snowballs into next thing you know, we could see tens, dozens of countries following suit. And what does that mean for the price? Let's say in the first quarter of 2025, literally, let's say five new countries or 10 countries start copying the US and maybe implementing a strategic reserve. What will that do to price? It will push Bitcoin well past $100, $200, even $300,000 per coin in a very short amount of time, depending on how much is bought. But realistically, if you get one or two really big influential countries like the US, maybe China or Germany or one of these countries, the price really starts going up very easily. Keep in mind, the entire market cap of Bitcoin is, in that range of $1 to $2 trillion. It's not that much. The total addressable market of Bitcoin is tens of trillions of dollars. So there's still a lot of room to grow. And once we get nations getting involved, if that actually happens, it's going to pick up extremely fast. We also see that On-Chain College highlights here, at this point of his journey, he just smiles when new entrants freak out on price drops. I mean, really, if you're new to the market, you might get scared every time Bitcoin goes down 5, 10, 15%. But if you zoom out, it's not very significant. And according to this BTC momentum chart here, basically, if you look at this orange line, which is the market value to realized value, the MVRV, and you see the white line, which is the price of Bitcoin, largely this MVRV leads Bitcoin. And we start to see this curling up, and potentially, is Bitcoin also about to start curling up, moving up to the upside as well? And we also see that, obligatory Bitcoin hash rate hits a new all-time high. This is kind of a boring metric, but it's the most important one because it's the strength and security of the network, and it has never been more secure, and it's never been stronger. So even though it's kind of boring and it doesn't directly, it does kind of relate to price, because the bigger Bitcoin is, the more decentralized, the more people use it, the stronger it becomes. So yeah, typically this is just a really necessary, but again, like I said, kind of boring chart, because hash rate is just hash rate. But again, it just shows the strength of Bitcoin. Now, another thing I want to highlight is that if we look at, this is the entire cryptocurrency market cap, excluding the top 10 coins. So basically the entire altcoin market. We look at this, and this down here is Bitcoin dominance, where we're falling off just like we were back in the end of 2020, beginning of 2021. This right here is exactly when we see the altcoins really start to pick up. You can see as well, Bitcoin dominance is struggling right here, signaling the altcoins, I think, are about to make a bigger move. And if you look on this chart, which is a double bottom in the cryptocurrency market cap excluding top 10 dominance, so not market cap, but dominance, you can see when we make these double bottoms here, just like we did as well here, which signaled the bottom, and you can see it corresponding to this down here. Basically, it has signaled many times in the past that actually this is a precursor to alt season and altcoins doing extremely well. And Bitcoin dominance, looking like it's continuing. It's about on its third week, continuing to struggle below this trend line, signaling that maybe altcoins have some room to move up. This is the entire cryptocurrency market minus Bitcoin, so the entire altcoin chart as well, where we got a rejection in the beginning of December. However, once we break these previous all-time highs, concretely, I think the altcoin market is going to be moving up drastically. And we also see that the weekly chart for Bitcoin looks good. The daily, as we talked about, you can see it kind of curling over. Specifically, the MACD right here, looking to actually switch to positive momentum for the first time since back in November of 2024. And as I mentioned yesterday, we got a bullish cross on the RSI as well. So short-term momentum actually looks like it might be heating up, picking up steam. And overall, the market just looks good. And I currently have a lot of open altcoin trades. And if you're interested in doing the same, you can get signed up with Femex or BITUNIX below. Without any further ado,